Hey everyone, it's Luke here at day 3 of PAX Australia 2016, and I'm joined by Vee Pendergrast, who is the rep from, well, I should say creative director, no, not creative director, boss of, too many hats, boss of Stirfire Studios, and we're exhibiting a fairly unique new title this weekend in the form of Symphony of the Machine, which we've had the great pleasure of having a bit of a test run on. So Vee, Symphony of the Machine, what's going on with the game, and what can people expect when they play this for the first time?
Okay, well, we're heading up to our release now in Q1 2017 on both PlayStation VR and Steam VR. What can they expect when they play the game? It's a really unique beast. It's slow, it's chilled out, it's probably the nicest thing that you'll ever play in VR. No zombies, no shooting, growing plants, changing the weather, and just simply a nice place to be with a lush soundtrack.
So in terms of the people who may want to play a game like this, being a bit more of a zen environment, is there a particular target audience in terms of genre that you're aiming for, or is this going to be a game that is great for all comers to VR?
Well, okay, there's a couple of different entry points into this. So the biggest thing is this is a really great entry point into VR if you've never done it before. It's simply one of those things where if you've not used VR, if you're worried about getting motion sick, like I get acutely motion sick in VR and I can play this game with no problems at all. So that's one of our targets, is that we wanted to make this game really accessible because VR has a lot of accessibility issues that go with it. The next thing being is it's really one of those things where people find VR really confronting. So we want you to play your zombie games, we want you to play your racing games and shooting and robots and whatever, but when you want to chill out, when you finish with them and you want to wind down for the night, this is the game that you play. So our target market is actually really broad because everybody can play this game regardless of whether you're of your skill level or if you just want to chill out of your intense experience.
So the name, of course, is fairly unique as well, so Symphony of the Machine. Where does the inspiration for the name come from, and how does that come into play with the actual game itself?
Well, the whole theme of the game was ritual. It actually came out of Global Game Jam in 2016, and the whole point of that was, with the ritual, was to create a mechanical rain dance. So with that, the point of the game is really to change the weather using the ancient machine, grow plants, grow the environment back around you. So that was what the ritual became. And then the Symphony is, of course, the wonderful lush soundtrack and directional audio that you get within the game.
So exhibiting a game of the nature of Symphony of the Machine in an environment like PAX, of course, it's quite manic and quite crazy. And people who have come along and played the game, what sort of feedback have you been getting sort of this weekend?
Honestly, everyone loves it. And I don't even have to make that up because it's true. Regardless of whether they're an action player or if they wanted something that's a different experience, the feedback has been universally lovely. The other challenges, I guess, that we've had is just the environment. As you can hear, is quite noisy. So we've had a lot of special consideration when we come to exhibit. We've put noise reduction headsets on everybody. Guys, if you can see the footage, they have instructors' headsets on to guide people through the game. We're having a lot of electromagnetic interference is actually affecting our equipment. Is probably the only other thing, and it's just unique to the PAX environment.
Absolutely. A lot of VR on this year. I think it's probably the first year we've seen as much virtual reality as we have. Yeah, great. All right, well, we've got Stirfire sort of announcing recently that Symphony of the Machine will be out as a title in 2017, and a few of the platforms have been confirmed. So what can you tell us about the plan sort of going to market?
So Q1 2017 is locked in already with Steam VR and PlayStation VR. So those are the platforms that you'll be able to find us on.
All right. Thanks very much, Vee. Right, so we're back with Lisa Rye from Stirfire Studios. Now, Lisa is the actual creative director at Stirfire and has made her mark on a lot of fantastic work already. We've had, of course, Freedom Fall, which you were the principal artist and design lead from the creative direction on. And I've got some of your artwork from that game actually sitting up in my games room, so I'm a very, very big fan of that. Yeah, no, it's great. So Symphony of the Machine, very, very different beast when it comes to the look of the game compared to the platformer of Freedom Fall. So as sort of the creative and being a big part of the drive behind the vision for Symphony of the Machine, what can you tell us about what you've had to consider and what your personal touches on the game have been so far?
Well, virtual reality is just a completely different experience to design for. You really have to think about everything in the game being at arm's reach. So you're almost designing for yourself and what you can see in your mind in sort of a space which is reachable around you. So everything you interact with has to be really tactile. One major consideration we had was, we're using motion controllers for everything you interact with in the game. So making things feel responsive when you pick them up and move them around, and interesting to look up close. Those are the things you really need to consider when you're working in VR.
And so obviously a principal part of the design is puzzles. So people trying to puzzle out how to interact with the environment and actually, solve the next challenge that is in front of them. Did you have a lot of consideration to the difficulty level of the puzzles, or were those perhaps made a little bit more accessible just to make it a more open and inviting game for people as perhaps their first VR experience?
Definitely in a space like PAX, you have to consider that you're teaching both your own game and also VR. So people need to acclimatise to the virtual reality experience. But with Symphony the Machine, the difficulty curve was something we really had to consider for the PAX demo. But in the actual game, you'll have quite a lot of really difficult puzzles later on in the game. But making sure that the curve is suitable when you're first getting into it is very important too.
So a short time ago, I actually had an interesting conversation with Brendan from Stirfire around some of the decisions made in the game's design around communicating instruction to the players. And of course, when you're potentially designing a game for a foreign market, the instructions that you're able to give can't necessarily be language specific, but you've got to keep that as open as possible. So things like that, what other challenges have you found to be unique of designing a game for virtual reality? Is there something that's really had you tearing your hair out before you managed to solve it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, you have to step people through it really in baby steps when you're first getting someone into virtual reality. But that said, if someone has used virtual reality before and they're playing your game, it's really obvious because they're just like, oh, I know what to do. I'm going to do this here and that there. But yeah, we definitely have to consider that you take a slow approach to introducing game elements one at a time, and repetition is a lot of the key of making a game accessible in VR.
Oh, well, we've got a good variety of different titles coming out from Stirfire now. You're sort of touching a few different genres. We've got, of course, Debug here at the show this weekend as well, which is in development. What sort of type of game do you have in your brain that you're keen to move on to next? I mean, there must be a bunch of ideas rattling around. Have you got any thing you can share with us that might be a passion that you're looking forward to exploring?
Oh, I really wish I could share them. I'm definitely the sort of person who goes home and goes, I have all of these game ideas I want to work on, and I love to make demos in my spare time, little prototype games. And I have a lot of projects which are close to my heart that I would really love to talk about, but I'm sorry, I can't yet.
That's all right. We'll pick your brain at a later date, I promise. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for talking to us today, and enjoy PAX.
No worries. Thank you very much.